Okay, good evening, everyone. Baruch, what happened? You had to babysit? We are learning Lila Nishmas, Yaakov Chaim Ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, Avram Ben Shmuel HaKain, sponsored by Baruch Ian, Shalom Fogel, Lila Nishmas, Yaakov Zeb Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Sivya Miriam Bas Gad, Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, by Yaakov Yamansky, with Akarsa Tov to the Rav, Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren, A.B. Spry with Nachas from children and grandchildren, and Salah from London, and Joshua Rosenberg, a virtual Talmud. We welcome in Irving Fishbaum and Ruvain Pollack, Aaron Swade, Mo Kushner, Saba. We welcome in Yisrael Fisher, Menachem Yamansky, Shalom Fogel, Eddie Chazan, Shelley Zeitlin, Baruch Ian, Nachman Chapler, Rabbi Kranz, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Malu, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg. Here in Shul, we have the pleasure of having Darish Gessim and Gedalia Engel, Avram Rezepkowitz, Chaim Kramer, Rich Lenner, Ruvain Shanet. I don't know where Michal Avram is. David Helfgott is joining us on Kol HaLashon, and we are holding at the new Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Lamed Ches Amud Beis. On the bottom of Kuf Lamed Ches Amud Beis.
Do we add another name?
Yes.
Yoshua ben Brindle.
That's Refuah Shalema for Yeshua ben Brindle. Shav Refuah Shalema b'Sei Shecha Yisrael. Okay. In the event that the father gave to one of his sons his property, like we said, he gave to one of the sons, he gave to Ruvain his property after he dies. But the father reserves the usufruct for himself until he dies. That's the meaning, he's giving the guf of the karka to Ruvain, but he's keeping the right of the usufruct until he dies. So therefore, of Toilesh, he could pull and harvest the crop, and he could give it before he dies to whoever he wants, because he reserved the right of the usufruct until he dies. If he cut the produce and he left it on the ground and he died, that does not go to the son that he gave the land to. Rather that Hariyushal Yoshin, that's shared by all of the boys, by all of his heirs. Now, Tolushin, that's only if it's detached, but Mechuber Loi. But if there's stuff attached to the ground when he died, that goes to the son that he gave it to you, too. That goes to the son that he said, So the Gemara says, but we seem to learn a stira to this. V'atanya, we learned in the Braisa, Shamin es ha'mechubarin l'loikeach. We evaluate that which is attached to the ground to the buyer. Meaning that if when the father was alive, the son sold the property to Yisrael. Again, the father gave to Ruvain, Ruvain sells the field while his father died to Yisrael. And then the father died. Now, of course, Yisrael gets the field because Ruvain sold him the field. But what about stuff that's attached to the field when the father died? Who gets that? Does that go to the buyer, or does that go to the Yarshim? So Tanya Shaman Esamuchubarin Lulakeach, we evaluate, even though Yisrael gets the land because Reuven sold it to him, but that which is attached to the land doesn't go to him. So you see that we say that that which is attached to the land doesn't have the same din as the land. So it says the Gemara, there's no difficulty. Kan bibnai, a father to his son, when he grants the karka to the son, he also has in mind that which is attached to the karka. Kan ba'achar, for someone else, although Yisro bought the land, it's not included that which is attached to the land, because a father has more of a closeness to a son, and therefore, when the father said, it was included also that which was attached to the ground. But in the case where the son sold the land to Yisrael, he only sold the land, but not which is attached to the land at the time that the father died. Now, 4 lines from the top of Kuf Lamed Tesam, and I'm just getting underway over here on a beautiful Monday evening. Haniach bonim gedolim uketanim. If a father left big boys and minor boys, now they all have an equal inheritance. While the estate is not divided yet, let's say there's no Bechar, and there's 4 children, so there's $400,000 in the estate. They each get $100,000. While the $400,000 is not divided yet, the adult children cannot say, well, we'll buy our suits and our $300 hats and our $150 shoes, and the children will get their stretchies and their, mittens, because then the children it's not a really fair division. On the other hand, children need more food than adults. They eat more. The Ktanim can't get food together with the older ones, because then the older ones will not get an equal share. What they do is they divide the $100,000 each, and then they take from their $100,000 for their clothing and from their food respectively. Same thing. First Mishnah says, Nasu Agdalim, if the adults married and paid for the wedding from the estate, Yesu Aktanim, then the minors also get to have a wedding in the same way from the estate, from the Yerusha. The Imam Ktanim, however, if the minors say, the Gdalim were married off by the father, and the father made for them a wedding in Terrace on the Park, and made a beautiful Shabbos Sheva Brachas in the Hilton. So the Ktanim cannot claim that they deserve to get the same kind of wedding. The Imam Ktanim, Hari Anu Noisim, we want to get married from the estate, Kederech Shin Isasim Atem, like you got married. We want to get money from the estate to get married in Terrace on the Park. That's what Tati did for you. Ain't Shemilahem. That we don't pay heed to that. What the father gave them, nothing. That has nothing to do with the division of the estate. Now, what if there are only girls? It's the same thing. If you left older girls and minor girls, the older girls can't buy their, $600 dresses for shidduch meidels, while the minor girls get, a petticoat that's worth a few dollars. That's not fair. The Ktanas have to eat a lot while the girls are on a diet, so that's not fair either. They divide the $400,000 equally, and then the girls get their fancy dresses, and the minors get their fancy food. Nasu Gedalos, if after the father died, the older daughters got married from the estate, Yesu Ketanas, the younger daughters get married in the same way. However, in V'yamamru Ketanas, if the younger ones say, Harianu Noises Kedershin Asasim Atem, we want to get married the same way as father made you a wedding in Marina Del Rey, Ein Shaimelem, that doesn't work. Same thing as we said by the boys. Now, this is more severe or stringent by girls than by boys. The din is that if there's a small estate, then we know that the girls get support, and that comes out of the Yerusha of the sons. Because that's what it says in the Ksuva, that you'll be supported until you become of age, 12 and a half, a baigris, or at shetalokin leguvrin. But the eini zainis alabanis. If there are daughters, and there are younger daughters and older daughters, we don't say that the younger daughters get supported, but rather they each inherit an equal share. They don't have the din of support, which is a Tanai Ksuva, is only on when the sons inherit, not when girls inherit. Now, Amarava, Hai Gadol Achi, if the oldest son in the estate, the lavish vikase, he wears a nice suit, and he buys a fine cashmere coat, mibesa, and he takes it out of the money of the estate. Ma'ida of it. What is done is done. We'll see that he represents the estate, and therefore what he does is considered to be for value for all of the family. We learned that the adults don't get to dress and out of the estate, and even though the Ketanim also get to dress, but they get dressed for very little, so they can't take a cashmere coat and a fancy suit. Says the Gemara, Masnisen Shircha. The Mishnah is talking about where the older son is a bum, where the older son is a good for nothing. The older son is a good for nothing, then there's no benefit to the estate. So Shircha Pshita, isn't that obvious? Ma'ad the same says the Gemara, still, Nicha Lahu Deloy Ninadel, since represents the estate, he's the head of the family, it is beneficial for the entire family that he shouldn't walk around like a zhlub, Kamash Malan, that if he is not doing his job of taking care of the estate, then he cannot do it. Nasu Gedailim Yisu Ketanim. Now we just said that, what does it mean that if the older ones get married, the younger ones get married in the same way? Mike Amar, Rab Yudachi Kamar, Nasu Gedailim Lachar Misas Aviyem. If the older ones get married after the death of the father from the estate, Yisu Ketanim Lachar Misas Aviyem. The minors can claim the same type of wedding, same type of Sheva Brachas. Aval Nasu Gedailim B'chai Aviyem. If the older ones got married by the father made them a fancy wedding in terrace on the park. And the minors say after the death of the father, we want to get married the same way as Tati did for you. Ain't Shemilam. No, that we don't listen to. What the father did, that's his choice. But now they have to divide the estate equally. Left daughters, older ones and younger ones. Now, Shalach le Avur bar Geniva l'Rava. The father of Bar Geniva sent to Rava, Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, teach us our master. Love sava achla. If, let's say, what happened over here is that here we're going to be talking about a milva al peh. What happened is Sarah borrowed money and she used the money. And then she went ahead and got married. Again, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, teach us our master. Love Sava Achla. Sarah borrowed money, used it, V'amda v'nisis. And now she went ahead and married Chatzkel. So now she borrowed money, by the way, if you want to know, from who? She borrowed money from our abandoned, the one who abandoned us. She borrowed money from Baruchian. Right? Would you imagine he was here in shul and walked out on us? I mean, no. There'll be a public hanging tomorrow morning. The Baruch says he doesn't want it done in public. Okay. Go
easy. He's sponsoring Shal Shudas.
Oh, he's sponsoring Shal Shudas? So it's very nagaya. What happens at Chamisa? Chas v'shalom. So again, before I was rudely interrupted myself, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, teach us our master. Love Sava Achla. What happened is Sarah borrowed money, and she borrowed money from Baruch. Then the Amda Venisis. Now she borrowed money without a shtar. It's what's called a milva al peh. And then she went ahead and she got married to Chatzkel. Now the question is, can Baruch go to the husband to collect the money? Do we say baloi keachave? Do we say that the husband's acquiring the property of the wife is he has a din of a buyer, or Yerishavik, or he has the din of an heir? The difference is, if he's a buyer, you cannot take with a oral loan, you cannot take from a buyer. Or milval peh ain't a gaiva min alakuchas. Can't buy from take from a buyer. Or dilma Yerishavik, or he has a din of a Yerush, or milval peh gaiva min a Yerushim. Then Baruch could collect from the husband. So Amalei, so he says, Tanina, we learned in the Mishnah, Nasu Gedailois Yisu Ketanis. If the older daughters got married, then the minor daughters could also get married. Now, my love, doesn't this mean Nasu Gedailois Labal? If the older daughters got married to husbands, Yisu Ketanis Mebal. So the minor daughter could get married and take the money from the husband, from the husbands of the older daughters. Says Gemara, no, that's not what it means. What it means is, Nasu Gedailois Labal, if the older ones got married, so from the money in the estate, not from the money that the husband had from the older daughter, the minors could also get married from the money that's in the estate. Says the Gemara, is that so? If the older daughters got married to a husband, and now the younger daughter wants to take away money from the older daughter to get married, right? So you could take it away even from the husband. Yisuk tanis mebal. So you see that even though it's like a milval peh, even though it's like a oral loan, that they want to get money to get married, just the same way as the older daughters got married. We see that they could take it away from the older daughter's husband, so it must be that he has a din of a Yerush and not a din of a Lekeach. Says the Gemara, no. Dil Meshani Parnasa, it's different when it comes to taking care, let's say marriage. The Isla Kala, that has a curl. Now, it therefore has a din like a Milva Bishtar. A Milva Bishtar you could collect even from a Lekeach. So since this is known that they're going to have to be married, so therefore it's like a Milva Bishtar. So Amalei Rapapa L'Rava, Lav Hainu the Shalach Ravin Be'igrisei. Isn't this what Ravin sent in a letter? Mi shemeis v'aniach almana ubas. If somebody dies and he leaves a widow and a daughter. Now there's no sons, so the daughter inherits. Almanasei nizaynes minachasav. The din is that the widow gets supported from the estate, because that's the din that it's Tanai Ksuva, that she could get supported ad telochin legovern until kol yemei amalesechu, all the days of your widowhood. Le'aleinu. So almana nizaynes minachasav nisis habas. The daughter gets married, still almanasa nizaynes minachasav. Meisa habas, if the daughter dies, Rabbi Yehuda ben Achaisei shel Rabbi Yaisi, Rabbi Yehuda, the niece of Rabbi Yaisi ben Chanina, says, Al yodi haya maisa, through me there was such an incident, v'amru al manasa nizaynis minachasav, that even after the daughter died, the widow is supported from the husband. Now, he's a Yairish Mishamachi Almanusa Nizaynis Minachasav. But if he's a buyer, Amay Nizaynis Minachasav. Now, so the Gemara wants to learn that this obligation to the widow is like a milva al peh, which is very difficult to understand because it's a Tanai Ksuva. Amar Abaya, so Abaya says, he loved the Shalach Ravin. If not that Ravin sent this, Anan lo Yadinan, we don't know that a husband has a din of a Yerush. I Vatanan, we learned, Eluhain she'ein chayzrin b'yovel, the following doesn't get returned. We know that ancestral fields get returned at Yovel, but the following don't get returned at Yovel. Habachayra, the extra portion that the Bechar gets, Vayoresh es ishtay, and one who inherits a wife. Now, that means that which a husband gets from his wife doesn't go back to her family at Yovel. Now, if he had a din of a lekeach, it should go back at Yovel. So that's a raya as a din of a Yerush. Says the Gemara, Amalei Rava v'hashta de shalach. And now that Ravin sent his letter, mi adinan, do we know this to be a case? I ha'amar Reb Yaisi Reb Chanina, ba'usha hiskinu, in Usha they enacted. Here's an interesting thing. A woman has nichsei malug. Nichsei malug means that the property is hers. In pichsu la, in isiru la, if it goes down in value, she suffers the loss. If it goes up in value, then it's her benefit. The din is that if she sells the property while her husband is alive, and then she predeceases the husband, the din is that the husband could take it away from the buyer. Why? Because in Usha they enacted that he has a din of a lokeach rishon, of an earlier buyer. Let's see it inside. V'hashta d'shalach Ravin. Now that Ravin sent the letter miyadina, I Amar Reb Yaisi Reb Chanina ba'usha hiskinu. We know that after the destruction of the temple, the Sanhedrin was exiled from the Lishkas Hagazas, from the chamber of cut stone, and went to different places. And one of the places that it was exiled to was in Usha. If she sold, of course she can't sell the usufruct, the husband has the right of the usufruct, but she could sell the property if she sold the property and then she predeceases the husband, or Mesa, and the buyer wants to take it, the husband takes it away. Why? Because the husband has a din of a lekeach rishon. So we see that the husband has a din of a lekeach and not as a yoresh. Says the Gemara, you're right. It depends. In a very Talmudic way, it depends. Let's chat. Rich, could I have some cold water? I'm just thinking, what did I want to tell the Eilam? I think I mentioned it, but I just want to mention it again. We did send another payment to the Kailul in Beitar for another $1,360. If anybody else wants to participate in the Adopt a Kailul program, they can do so. It's very simple. You could send a Zelle. There's a special Zelle just for the Adopt a Kailul. It's a different email. It's Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss at gmail.com. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Elo Amar Rav Ashi. Baal Shavur Rabbanan ki Yairish. Sometimes the husband has a din of a Yairish. Sometimes Vishavir Rabbanan ki Lokeach. The Heichad the Tavale, whatever is more preferable, whatever works better for him, Avduleh. So Gabi Yovel, right? If he would be a buyer, then it would return to her at Yovel. So therefore, Gabi Yovel Shavur Rabbanan ki Yairish. You shouldn't say the D-Day, that he shouldn't lose it at Yovel. Gabi de Reb Yaisi Reb Chanina, by the din of the Nichsei Melug, if he would have a din of a Yairish, right? So then that which he sold during his lifetime would stay by the buyer, because and at her death she doesn't have it anymore, right? So therefore, Rabbanan made him a lekeach, like a lekeach rishon, like a previous buyer who has an earlier lien. Again, Mishum say the D-Day. Gabi de Ravin, in the case of Ravin, where the widow who would not be able to collect her support if the husband would have a din of a buyer, because she with a milva al peh she can't collect. So therefore, Mishum say the Dalmana Shavir Rabbanim ki Yairish. The Rabbanim made him like a Yairish. Says the Gemara, but wait a second. In the case of Rabbi Yosef Reb Chanina, what about the loss of the buyer? The buyer bought it from the wife, and now when you make the husband like a lekech rishon, the ikapseda the lekuchas. Why aren't we worried about the loss to the buyer? We should protect the interests of buyers. And v'shavyu rabbanan kelekech, and yet the rabbanan made him like a buyer. Says the Gemara, that's not the way to buy. Don't buy property from a wife while she's living with her husband. Hasam inhu afsidar nafshay. The buyers, they messed themselves up. Kaven ikabal, since she was a married woman, don't buy property from a married woman under the husband's nose. You shouldn't buy from a woman that's living together with a husband. I want you to know that this is a very big accomplishment to learn the parak. This is the parak of Yerusha in Shas. It's not an easy parak, and bravo to everyone. Now, Misha Meis v'aniach banim ubanis. What happened is Chatzkel died and left sons and daughters. Bisman shenachasim merubin, when the estate is plentiful, so habanim yirshu, the sons inherit the estate, v'abanis yizainu, and the daughters are supported. Nechasim u'atin, but if there's only a little in the estate, so then habanis yizanu, the daughters are supported. V'abanim yishalu al psachim, and the sons, it's not the derech of women to go out begging. The sons go and they collect. Admin disagrees. Admin says because a person is a boy, he should lose out. Rather, we say that in such a case, Admin's position is, in such a case, the boys and the girls are supported equally until the estate is depleted. I agree with the opinion of Admon. Now we said if the estate is plentiful, so then the boys get it and the girls get supported. So v'kama merubim, what's considered plentiful? Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, kadeshi yizayna mehen elu ve'elu shneim asachaydish. If there's enough for both of them for a year, so the girls get support for a year and the boys get the rest of the money for the year. However, the Gemara says that's strange, because girls are supposed to be supported until they get married or until they become a baigris, until they're 12 and a half. So ki amrisa kame de Shmuel, when I said this before Shmuel, Amar zu divrei Rab Gamliel bar Rebbe, aval chachamim aimrim kedei sheyazaynu mehem elu ve'elu ad sheyivgeru. It's only considered to be a plentiful estate unless there's enough to support the girls until they become 12 and a half. Imar nami ki as Rav Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'imar lo Amar Rabba bar Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan kol sheyazaynu mehem elu ve'elu ad sheyivgeru hey merubim, that's plentiful. Pachas mikan, if there's not enough to support the girls until they're 12 and a half, then the boys don't get anything and the girls get supported. So now it doesn't make sense. It's considered the boys will only get if there's enough to support both of them until 12 and a half. If not, the boys won't get anything. If there's not enough for both of them until the girls reach 12 and a half, the girls will get everything. That doesn't make sense. What it means is Ella Amarava, first you make sure that the girls have enough to be supported until they're 12 and a half, because it's not the derech for girls to beg. V'ashar, and what's left goes labanim. What's left goes to the sons.